All right, a big thing that has changed in the world of iPhones is the notch. We now have iPhones in Apple's ecosystem that have a notch up top, right? There's the iPhone X, and I'm sure after recording this, Apple's going to come out with a new version of the iPhone X or some other phone that's going to have a notch on it. The notch is something we've got to be able to handle here as developers, and Apple has done a lot to make it easy for us to sort of work around it and make everything look nice, but there's a few details that you should know about working with the notch. So let's go ahead and create a little sample project that we can work with to get a better understanding about this how all works. Let's just go create a new project. We just want a single view application, that's fine. I'm just going to call this Notch Fun. Get it? It's Notch Fun. No, this is going to be fun. But anyways, let's go ahead and throw this on the desktop. And let's make sure when we do our little simulator here that we have the iPhone X or whatever cool new version Apple has created. That's what I love recording these videos and knowing that Apple's got something hot in the works for us to see. Hopefully it's hot. If not, it's bad news for Apple. But we'll see what that is. So with that, let's go ahead and move over here to our storyboard. I just want to tell you how you can sort of design around making that notch look good, or your app look good on phones with a notch or without a notch. And so for sort of the situation that we're setting up here, I want to have a view controller where you hit a button and then moves on to another view controller. So let's go grab a button that we can have show up. I'm just going to grab a regular old button here. And oh, look, there our simulator popped up. Great, so we know that that's working. With this button, I'm just going to have it be centered inside of the app. So I'll go ahead and add those constraints. Then I want to bring out a completely separate view controller. Okay. And we're going to do a segue in between these two. So the first one is, if you're ever using a navigation controller, Apple has everything sorted out for you. So if I take this current view controller, select the little yellow circle to represent the whole view controller, then say editor, embed in navigation controller. Okay, when I do this, Apple is going to handle everything correctly. And if I go ahead and make it so that, like, when I hit this button, I want to do a segue, I'm going to do a control drag here to this view controller. I'm going to have it be a show segue. It gives the nice back button, and it's going to make everything look great. So just to kind of prove this to you, let's run this on the simulator. So here, you can see it kind of expanded up above this space, has the gray everywhere. And if I hit this button, shows the back button right there. Still got all the nice things there. Like, just everything looks awesome. But what about a situation where you have a modal segue? So I'm going to delete this segue. And I'm going to instead change this. And in fact, I'm going to get rid of the navigation controller, which when we do that, we have to select this view controller and go check that this is now the initial view controller. Get that arrow back there. But let's say we have a situation where we want to make it so when someone hits a button, we have a modal segue. Very commonly, this is if you're going to make something where someone has to create an object. I want them to either create something or I want to cancel doing that. Like, the back button doesn't make a whole lot of sense in those situations. So anyways, in those cases, if we go ahead and do a control drag here from this button to there, I want this thing to present modally. You can see there's no sort of navigation bar or anything. And if we're going to start setting up some stuff, like if I'm going to have a button, let's go ahead and grab one of these. You're going to have to be real careful about where you place this. So if I want a button up at the top left that's going to say something like exit, and I say, okay, I'm going to take this exit button. Let's have it just, go up very to the top and left. I'll go ahead and put 0, 0 for my top and left constraints, right? If we go run this, okay, wait for the app here, hit this button. You can see the exit button gets lost up at the top there, and it's like behind the status bar, and you can't even hit the button because it's in this status bar location. So one big thing that you've got to use here is something called the safe area. So if we go ahead and look at the constraints here, give ourselves some space to work with. So I have this button selected, and I've gone to the little ruler here. If I go down and look at my constraints, let's look at the top space constraint. I'm going to edit this. Might have to double click on it. There we go, to get this detailed thing. So these are the two places that this constraint is connected to. It's connected from the exit.top, which exit is the button that we have. So it's the button's top equal to the super view.top. Okay, so the super view is like the very edge of the view controller. You'll see there's another option here called the safe area. And if we select the safe area and move, it made this constraint automatically -20 for us, but if we make it 0 and hit tab there, it'll put it down a little bit. And what's great about the safe area is that it changes depending on what phone that it's running on. So if I go ahead and run this on the iPhone X, you'll notice now when I hit this button, look at that, it makes sure it spaces it down below the status bar there. And if it was a phone that had a smaller status bar, not as big as the iPhone X, it would still be up to the edge, but at an appropriate place that it wouldn't be, you know, behind the time and all that good stuff. So whenever you're designing things, you really got to make sure that you pay attention to that safe area. That's going to tell you, okay, as long as I'm not in the safe area, things aren't going to show up. So that's really the biggest key that you've got to keep in mind there. Now, here's a situation that I'd say is fairly common with this type of, you know, I have a button that's going to another screen and it's a modal segue. You still want a navigation bar because users like to see that navigation bar, right? But when you do this, let's go ahead and grab a navigation bar. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring this into the app. We can go ahead and get this close to the top. Now, it's important when we add this, you know, let's say we know that the left and rights are going to be 0, and let's do 0 for the top. And it looks like it's connected to the safe area. Let's confirm that by getting this aligned to top. Double click on this, and yes, it's connected to the, should be safe area. I think I want the safe area dot bottom. Yeah, that should be the bottom, I would think. Oh no, it's definitely the top. Okay, because there's a safe space at the bottom too. Okay, got that in place. You'll notice, you know, this would look fine, for example, if we ran this on, let's do like the iPhone 8 here so you can see what it looks like in two worlds. But essentially, in a normal app where there's a little status bar, like the, you know, time, whatever, that's going to fill its space and it's going to look fine. The iPhone X, it's also going to do that, but the way that the iPhone X handles things is that it has like sort of some extra spacing here up at the sides, and so it's going to make it look really nasty when we go to run this here. So we'll just give this a second here to get all loaded up for us. Okay, we'll hit this button, and you'll see when we move forward, like this, it doesn't look great here, but we do at least get something, right? It's like, okay, there's the time up there, then we got this. It's just on the iPhone X, this is much more pronounced and nasty looking here. If we go ahead and run this, you'll see that this is just like, ugh. Okay, we come in here, we hit this button, and it's like, okay, this is all white, and then it's gray here. Like it looks somewhat okay in this situation when you hit the button there, that it's like, okay, there's a lot of apps where that's just kind of a square thing, and you know, I think a lot of users are kind of used to that, although, you know, if you do change that background, it's going to look really nice. But on the iPhone X, it's just almost unbearable. Like, oh, this is nasty. So the question is, how do you fill up this safe area space up top here so that it kind of flows with the rest of this, just like it automatically did for us with the navigation controller? Well, it really just amounts to adding a view up there and matching this background color to the same here. So what we're going to do is go grab a new view, and we just want a straight up view, and so we're gonna have to probably scroll to the bottom. There we go. And you want it to kind of fit up there. It's a little bit hard to get it exactly where you want. I usually end up zooming in here a bit and saying, okay, you know, I'm trying to fill the space between these two things, right? It should go out to the edge. So anyways, I'm gonna have these things, but then I'm gonna take this view that I just created and say, all right, you need to go to the top, need to go all the way to the left, to the right, and also the bottom 0 all the way around for those constraints. So go ahead and add that. You can see it fills up the safe space, safe area. Let's make sure, so the top space, that goes to the super view. That's what we want. The bottom space, you can see right now, is connected to the navigation bar's top. I don't know how much I'm in love with that. I think I'd rather have this be connected to the safe area top. I mean, essentially the two are the same because they're connected with their own constraint, right? But really kind of up to you about how you want to handle it. And then what we've got to do is set the appropriate color for here, right? So with this view, we want to set its background color to something like, I can choose like a red so you can see distinctly what's going on here. And if you run this, this will kind of give you a good idea of what space it is that we're trying to fill here. So hit that button, and there you can see that's what we're aiming for. But we want to have the same gray color. So there's this awesome app on the App Store. I think it's like 99 cents. It's called Color Picker. But basically, this app makes it really easy to just hit this little magnifying glass. I'm going to figure out what this color is, F9, F9, F9. I can copy that, come back to this view and say, I want a custom color here. How do we get the color set up? Oh, there we go, custom. Okay, so I'm going to come here. I think if I do RGB, there we go. That's where I can specify the hex. So I'm going to put in that number, and I'm going to close out of that, and look at that. It's got that nice gray, just like the title bar there. Okay, so go ahead and run this, and you'll notice now when we have this and we hit this button, look at that, it fills up and it's got that nice gray showing up, so it looks just like the navigation controller. Okay, so there you got it. There's the basics of working with the iPhone X. Again, that safe area is really the big thing there. Most of the time it's just making sure things don't go past it, and in some cases you've got to fill up the space behind it. But let me know if you have any questions or would like to know more about designing for the iPhone X, but those are the basics. I think that's going to get you there. Again, there's probably going to be some new iPhone by the time you're watching this, and so, but whatever it is, I'm sure there's notches out there, and this is how you can handle that.